Good evening from SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California, and welcome to the webcast of the SAOCOM 1A mission out of our West Coast launch site at Space Launch Complex 4E, located at Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. My name is Tom Perderio, and I'm a firmware engineer here at SpaceX, and I'll be your host for this evening. Tonight, we'll be placing the SAOCOM 1A Earth observation satellite into a low Earth orbit for Argentina's Civilian Space Agency, or CONAI. Tonight's launch is scheduled for 7:21 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. That's 0221 hours Coordinated Universal Time, or UTC. SAOCOM 1A will mark SpaceX's 17th launch of 2018. This evening's launch is also an especially exciting one for SpaceX because it's the first land landing back at our Vandenberg launch site. Tonight, following second stage separation, that first stage will return back to the west coast of California and attempt to land on our brand new Vandenberg landing zone called LZ4, which we'll talk about more later in this webcast. Right now, you're looking at a live view of that rocket out on the launch pad at Vandenberg Air Force Base, which is about 225 kilometers north of SpaceX headquarters where we are right now. Now, Vandenberg is notorious for its fog, but as you can see, today is a very rare, clear day at the launch site. The only fog you can see is the gaseous liquid oxygen bleeding off from the vehicle itself, so it means that we're in great shape to launch today from Vandenberg. That first stage, the two-stage Falcon 9 vehicle is standing 229 feet tall, which is slightly taller than a 21-story building. The first stage, which is the bottom two-thirds of the rocket right here, has 9 powerful Merlin 1D engines right at the bottom. These 9 Merlin engines will light at T-0 and lift the vehicle from the launch pad up through the Earth's atmosphere and into space. On top of that first stage is the black carbon fiber inner stage, and on top of that is the second stage, which will then, after separation, take the spacecraft to its eventual destination in orbit. These stages separate at about 2.5 minutes into flight, and the first stage is the part of the rocket that we'll be attempting to recover today. And this first stage is actually a flight-proven first stage that previously launched in the Iridium 7 mission out of Vandenberg, this exact same launch site, back in July of this year. While this would not be the first time we're landing the first stage launched from Vandenberg, all of our previous West Coast landings have been done out at sea via our autonomous spaceport drone ship fleet. This will be the first attempt to bring this first stage back to land at Vandenberg. You'll also notice there's a nose cone-shaped structure right at the top of the rocket. This is called the satellite fairing. This fairing houses the SAOCOM 1A satellite and protects it until the vehicle is outside the Earth's atmosphere, at which point the fairing separates to expose the satellite to space for eventual separation. For this particular mission, we're not going to be attempting to recover the fairing. However, SpaceX will continue to make ongoing attempts in future launches to recover the fairing for reuse. With almost 13 minutes left until the launch, let's check in on how the rocket's doing as we get closer. We are currently working no issues with the rocket. That Falcon 9 you can see on your screen has been loading propellants since T-minus 35 minutes. The second stage is now completely fueled for launch, and the first stage is on track to finish fueling about T-minus 6 minutes before launch. Liquid oxygen, or LOX, loading is in progress for both stages, and the next major activity is going to be the opening of the valves between the first stage propellant tanks and the engines to chill down their turbopumps prior to ignition in the last seconds of countdown. The Air Force's West Range operates out of Vandenberg and monitors air, sea, and weather conditions. Currently, that range is giving us a go for launch. We track both upper altitude winds, ground altitude winds, and cloud rules for launch, and right now all 3 of those weather conditions are both tracking towards a go for launch. As you can see on the pad and the view on your screen right now, the sunset is just about finished at Vandenberg, and not a single cloud in the sky, so we couldn't ask for better weather for our West Coast launch site. One thing to note for our Southern California viewers, due to a twilight launch, there is an increased possibility of seeing the contrail produced as the rocket passes through the atmosphere from all of Southern California. Additionally, people in the close vicinity of our Vandenberg site may hear a sonic boom when the vehicle reaches supersonic speeds. Because this is a low Earth orbit mission, tonight's flight has an instantaneous launch window, so if we're delayed for any reason tonight, we will need to scrub for the night and try again later in the week. The next launch opportunity for this particular payload to reach its orbit is Thursday, October 11th at 7:21 p.m. Pacific time. Tonight's launch is of the SAOCOM 1A satellite for our customer, CONAI. CONAI is the government of Argentina's national civilian space agency, and SAOCOM 1A is part of a two-satellite system that will use radar technology known as synthetic aperture radar, or SAR, to monitor the Earth. SAOCOM 1A will provide soil moisture information for agricultural purposes and also assist with rapid response during natural disasters. SAOCOM 1A will also be the biggest antenna in space for a civil mission. The second nearly identical satellite, called SAOCOM 1B, will be launched in the near future, also aboard a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. Today we'll be launching SAOCOM 1A into low Earth orbit, and the satellite will be deployed just over T plus 12.5 minutes into flight. With the launch coming up in just about T minus 10 minutes, let's take a closer look at the capabilities of this satellite. As I mentioned before, this Falcon 9 first stage will be attempting the first ever land landing back at Vandenberg Air Force Base. In order to accomplish this, the first stage executes a series of 3 engine burns: boost back, re-entry, and landing. This animation will give you a better idea of exactly what that first stage is going to do. So right now you can see the first stage ascending into the atmosphere, carrying the second stage. At about 2.5 minutes into flight, that second stage pops off, and the first stage executes a boost back burn to come back towards the pad. It then executes an entry burn to slow itself down, and then finally, in conjunction with opening its landing legs, it comes down for a landing burn right over the pad. Land landings have a number of advantages over water landings. First, they're not subject to ocean storms that might affect the drone ship, and secondly, landing on land significantly streamlines our post-launch processing of the recovered first stage. With landings, we're able to refurbish the boosters right here at our facilities in Vandenberg, rather than waiting for the drone ship to return all the way back to port. These types of efforts support our future goal of a 24-hour turnaround from landing to reflight. The ability to land rockets back on land at Vandenberg has been made possible through our recent Block 5 upgrades, including increasing the rocket's power so the vehicle is able to propel itself all the way back to land after accomplishing its primary mission. If successful today, this will be the first land landing of a Block 5 vehicle. To enable land landings, we also had to create a new landing zone, LZ4. You can see in these shots exactly how close to the launch site that landing zone 4 pad is. Work began on LZ4 back in 2016 and took about a year to complete. The site actually has an interesting history. Space Launch Complex 4, or SLC 4 for short, which is the entire thing you can see on your screen right here, was originally 2 separate launch pads, SLC 4 East and SLC 4 West. That first flew the Titan rocket family before being taken over by SpaceX. SpaceX refurbished SLC 4 East for the first Vandenberg Falcon 9 launch back in September of 2013, which is actually the first SpaceX flight that I saw as an employee. The other pad, SLC 4 West, has now been reconstructed as LZ4 to receive the rockets that launch literally right next door. Of course, both launch and landing pads are both clear of all personnel in the hours leading up to the launch. Now, it's important to note that regardless of how many successes we have, landing a first stage, much like launching the rocket itself, is always a very challenging task. Furthermore, because this is the first time we're landing the rocket back on land at Vandenberg, right next to the launch pad, this is an especially tricky one. Our most important objective tonight is to deliver the satellite SAOCOM 1A to orbit, but landing a first stage would be a significant achievement as well. If all goes well, we should be able to bring you live video coverage of the landing attempt as it happens. We are now just under 5 minutes away from the launch and still tracking no issues. At about T-minus 4.5 minutes, coming up very shortly, that transporter erector, the tower standing right next to the rocket, sometimes referred to as the strongback, will begin to retract away from the vehicle. The strongback's job is to transport the vehicle from the hangar to the launch pad and lift it to a vertical position, retracting just prior to launch. Inside of T-minus 90 seconds, you'll see a large plume of gaseous oxygen venting. This is just a normal part of the LOX bleed-off process. And then, finally, at about T-minus 60 seconds, you'll hear the launch team call out Falcon 9 is in startup. This indicates that the Falcon 9's internal flight computers have taken control of the countdown. Just in summary, the range is still giving us the okay for launch. The weather continues to look beautiful. In fact, most of the SpaceX team is either outside of our headquarters or at Vandenberg itself to watch this beautiful launch tonight. As a reminder, if anyone calls for hold in the countdown net, we will have a backup launch opportunity on Thursday at the same time. Like I was saying, we are monitoring no problems with upper level winds or ground level winds, and there is not a cloud in sight. So with just about 5 minutes until launch, or excuse me, with just about 3.5 minutes until launch, let's listen into the countdown nets as we approach T-minus 0.
Stage 1 LOX is closed out. Stage 2 LOX load is closed out. Fast closeouts have started. Falcon 9's in startup.
Falcon 9 SAOCOM, go for launch and landing.
Fifteen seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. Liftoff. Just cleared the tower.
Take those 60 gun range. Stage 1 props nominal. Power and telemetry nominal.
All telemetry stations are receiving.
You're looking at the Falcon 9 rocket as it ascends through the atmosphere, carrying the SAOCOM 1A satellite to low Earth orbit.
Vehicle supersonic.
Right now, the vehicle is passing through max Q, which is the point of maximum aerodynamic pressure on the airframe. The vehicle actually throttles itself down for this portion of the flight in order to reduce structural stresses.
Altitude 30 kilometers.
For those of you just joining us, we did have a successful liftoff from the pad at Vandenberg Air Force Base at 7:21 p.m., just as expected. Coming up at T plus 2 minutes and 19 seconds, we're going to have a series of 5 events happening all very, very quickly together. That's going to be main engine cutoff, stage separation, second engine start, boost back burn start, and fairing deploy. It's going to happen really fast, so let's watch the views we have on your screen.
100.
Coming up in about 10 seconds.
Nico.
And there you have it. We had a successful main engine cutoff and then a good stage separation of that first stage. You can see the second stage Merlin vacuum engine lighting up right now, heating up and preparing to boost that payload the rest of the way and towards its intended orbit.
Stage 1 boost back is started.
Should see that fairing deploy on the right-hand side of your screen right now. And there it is. Good fairing deploy.
Fairing separation confirmed.
So right now, what you can see is 2 separate views. On the left-hand side of your screen, you can see the that's a view from the top of the first stage of the Falcon 9, currently executing a boost back burn. This is a shot from the ground as we can see it here in California. And on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see the bottom of the second stage as its Merlin vacuum engine continues to push that SAOCOM 1A satellite into low Earth orbit.
Stage 1 boost back is shut down.
That second stage will continue burning its Merlin 1 vacuum engine all the way until 10 minutes into flight.
Ascend trajectory nominal.
What you're seeing on the left-hand side of your screen is a beautiful shot from the ground in California of the exhaust gases of that first stage. Viewers in California may be able to see this from outside. You can see the grid fins on the side of the rocket have extended. Those puffs of gas coming from the rocket that you can see from the ground are the reaction control system on that first stage as it maintains its attitude coming back down towards the pad. The boost back burn is now complete from that first stage. The next thing coming up at 5 minutes and 56 seconds will be the start of the entry burn. This entry burn happens just as the first stage hits the thicker regions of the atmosphere, so it can slow itself down and avoid damage to those 9 Merlin engines, which are entering first into the atmosphere. You can see periodic bursts from those cold gas thrusters on the side of the first stage. So for those of you just joining us, we are currently following the first stage as it heads back towards the LZ-4 at Vandenberg Air Force Base on the left-hand side of your screen, and on the right is the second stage of the rocket as it continues to ascend towards low Earth orbit. There it is. That's the start of the entry burn of that Falcon 9 first stage. This burn is only about 30 seconds. Right now, that first stage is mostly empty of fuel, so it's actually pretty light. Doesn't need that much force to slow it down.
Stage 1, entry burn, shutdown.
And that looks like the shutdown of the entry burn. You're getting views both from the top of the Falcon 9 first stage as it comes down through the air, and also from the ground, visible from California.
Stage 1 FTS is safe.
Seeing that the sun is now below the horizon, we probably won't see much more of the first stage until it lights up its engines for the final landing burn. That's going to happen at T plus 7 minutes and 14 seconds. So coming up almost in about 5 seconds now. There it is. That's the start of the landing burn.
Stage 1, landing burn has started.
That Falcon 9 first stage should be approaching the ground just about in 5 seconds here. Let's watch as it attempts to land.
Stage 1, landing legs at the point. Vandenberg, LZ-4, the Falcon is landed. Landing on
And it appears that that Falcon 9 first stage has just stuck the landing at LZ-4 at Vandenberg Air Force Base. This is great news for everyone here at SpaceX. Reminder that this is the first time we've ever landed a rocket first stage back at Vandenberg Air Force Base. Great news for everyone here. We're all extremely excited. Like I said, most of our team is at the launch site right now, and they must be out of their minds. So that is awesome. Right now, however, that is not the end of our mission today. The primary mission is still ongoing. On the center of your screen, you can see that Merlin vacuum engine attached to the second stage, still pushing the SAOCOM 1A satellite into low Earth orbit. We're going to continue thrusting that Merlin vacuum engine until T plus 10 minutes and 8 seconds, when that second stage engine will cut off. That's an event called SECO, Second Engine Cutoff 1.
Stage 2 FTS is safe.
Once SECO happens in about 45 seconds, the next big event is going to be payload separation, happening at T plus 12 minutes and 39 seconds.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
Second stage engine cutoff coming up in 10 seconds. And there it is. You can see that that second stage engine has shut down. We're now waiting confirmation that the stage is in a good orbit, exactly where we intend it to be.
Good.
And we have confirmation of a good orbit. This is great news. That means that there's only one more thing we have to do in order to get the SAOCOM 1A satellite to its destination in orbit, and that is payload deployment. Right now, the SAOCOM 1A payload is attached to the top of the second stage with a payload adapter fitting, which is holding on by way of some clamps and some small springs. When we give the signal to release the satellite at T plus 12 minutes and 39 seconds, give or take, those clamps will release and the springs will give the SAOCOM 1A satellite a gentle push away from the top of the second stage. On your screen right now, you're looking from the top of the second stage towards the SAOCOM 1A payload. That deployment is going to be happening in about 50 seconds, 50 seconds. Stand by for satellite separation in about 10 seconds. And there it is. You can see on your screen
Separation confirmed.
the SAOCOM 1A satellite gently gliding away from the top of the Falcon 9 second stage. This is fantastic news. This means that the SAOCOM 1A satellite has been put into its correct orbit, and the mission of the Falcon 9 is complete. So with that, we are going to be bringing the webcast to a close. Just a reminder, this was the fastest turnaround time for a West Coast relaunch, just about 2 months from landing to relaunch. To summarize what happened here today, we did have a good launch at 7:21 p.m. from the pad at Vandenberg Air Force Base. We then had a good ascent, and the first stage returned all the way back to LZ4 for a beautiful shot. As you can see on the right-hand side of your screen, that Falcon 9 just completed the first ever land landing on the West Coast for SpaceX. After that, we had a good boost into orbit by the second stage, and finally a successful spacecraft separation for the SAOCOM 1A satellite into low Earth orbit. With that, we'd like to thank our customer Konai for tonight's mission and their great support. We'd also like to thank the U.S. Air Force for the range support, as well as the Federal Aviation Administration. Continue to follow us on SpaceX.com for future missions and milestones, as well as our Twitter and our Instagram profiles. And if you are as excited as I am and as we are here by what you've seen tonight, and you want to join our team, please visit SpaceX.com/careers to learn more about working at SpaceX. Thank you to all of our viewers for your continued support, and please have a great night.